The Evara Health Injury Report with our guy, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. Doc, what's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am fantastic, buddy. Thank you so much for your time. As always, I know you're excited. You're a season ticket holder now with the Tampa Bay Lightning. You were on the wait list for a while. How jacked up are you about Thursday night?
I'm great. I'm actually going to the game tonight. So
Oh,
I'm very
nice.
jacked up about it. Yeah.
That is amazing. We're going to talk football here in a second, but I wanted to ask you real quick about that injury to Nick Paul because he was dealing with a tear in his left wrist. And we had this conversation last week about Tristan Wirfs and why the Buccaneers waited so late into the offseason to be able to get that surgery done. And when people were asking about Nick Paul, and I was, from my amateur, thought process, I was thinking, well, maybe it was the same thing with Nick Paul because they said that it was an issue last season. Julian Breezewell told us on the final day last year that that's what it was. And now he's dealing with an injury. They didn't disclose what it was, but you'd have to think it's the same thing. Do you think that was the same mindset, doctor, about, hey, it's a tear in your left wrist. If we don't have to get surgery, let's not get surgery. Let's see if it heals on its own. And then when he came back, it didn't heal as they initially thought. Do you think that's what happened?
Yeah, it's been reported as an upper body injury. So as you said, it's undisclosed. So but we're thinking it probably a wrist. So this is probably what we would think is a TFCC. It's a triangular fibrocartilage complex injury. It's essentially a ligament / cartilage that joins your wrist to your forearm. And it sits right here on the pinky side of your wrist.
Oh, so it's on the back side then? Because from what I was talking to some people, I was thinking it on the underside. So probably on the back side, you're saying, by the pinky.
Oh, yeah. So that's where the TFCC is. Now, if he was dealing with some sort of other bony injury here on the thumb side, it's possible. TFCC injuries are very common to drag out for a while. It can be several weeks to months for them to heal up if you treat them without surgery. So he could have been dealing with this most of last season with it. Through the summer, didn't get much better. So at that point, since it's such a long time before it gets better, you go ahead and opt for surgery, fix it up, repair it. Usually after the repair, it's usually a couple of months of recovery. So that will put him on target for that November return.
Yeah, and it'll be great to get him back in the lineup. He's such a tough player as well. And man, I was just showing everybody, Doc, the injury report for our Tampa Bay Lightning. My goodness, it's pretty wild. It looks like just a roster list for everything. I want to start with Baker Mayfield. It looks like he's probably going to be in there, but he's dealing with a little bit of a biceps injury. It seems like, and I wanted to ask you, as somebody that myself that has dealt with baseball injuries, and I've seen everything with the elbow and the shoulder and every single phrase that goes out there. The biceps injury for him, and I know it's tough to know without exactly knowing what the injury is, but what kind of bicep injury could he be dealing with? And if it's something that is more of a nagging type of thing, where it's something where he can injure himself further, what do you think Baker's deal is with his arm and how that could affect his play?
Well, the more common injury to the biceps is a tendonitis. So that's usually here as your biceps comes on and inserts up here on your shoulder area. You can have a tendon inflammation at the insertion point right at the shoulder. So that's the more common thing. It's a little secondary. It could be a mild tear within the head or the belly of the biceps, but usually it might be mostly tendonitis is what I'm thinking. That's the more common thing that occurs on throwing because the biceps has to do a lot of work, especially when you're overhead throwing a baseball or a football. If that's what he's dealing with, and he played with it this past Sunday, mostly it will affect long throws and some strength. So he may not be throwing a lot of bombs down the field because it's going to affect his distance and the strength on that arm. But he still should be able to throw the short passes, to be able to mid passes. Accuracy shouldn't be affected much by it. So it mostly should be more strength more than anything else.
Yeah, and what I brought up, and I try to correlate between some of the things that I've seen on the baseball side, and I said that the throws that he's not able to set his feet and where he just has to rely on his arm strength, where he's possibly rolling out of the pocket and throwing on the run, where he doesn't have that stable base to be able to kind of step into the throw. I think those are the ones we have to be concerned about. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, because you hit it around the head. When you're able to set your feet, your motion to throw starts right from the turf through your feet up through your body to your arm. So you have a little more power to it. When you're scrambling, running, or up in the air running, now you're relying really on your upper body and your arm to do the throw. So those are the throws that's going to be a little more difficult when you have a biceps injury.
And you mentioned the turf, and I know we just saw, I think it was Odell Beckham Jr. sent out a tweet the other day because there was 2 injuries, Joe Walt and then Malik Neighbors. Neighbors tears his ACL. What have you heard of? What have you seen in your time, doing this as far as, turf versus the natural grass? Because especially you hear it a lot from up there in New Jersey there at MetLife Stadium, where every single year people are complaining about how terrible the turf is there more than anybody else. But I every time I talk to any kind of athlete, they're like, the turf is a killer, Doc. I mean, what have you seen as far as the difference between the two?
So it's been a long debate, many years. You see studies going back and forth on it. But if you look at it in 2024, there was an article published that looked at the 2021 and the 2022 NFL seasons. And it actually noticed that it was between a 25 to 30% increase in injuries per game on turf versus grass. And it kind of makes a little sense. Grass, dirt will give under a lot of pressure, under a lot of force. The turf doesn't give as easily. So especially lower extremity season-ending injuries tend to be a little more common on turf than they are on grass. Even the Washington University in St. Louis did a study on high schools and found a 58% increase in turf injuries, lower extremity turf injuries compared to grass. So there is some sort of a difference.
That's incredible, man. And I understand why people do it, whether it's cheaper or whether it's because we know that these stadiums are not just for the football games, right? They use them for concerts and all these different things. But man, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild that there's such a large disparity between the two. And I just don't know if anything like that is it technology? I mean, I know it's weird. Like, do they ever get to do you think they would ever do that? Would they ever get to a point where they come up with different turf? I don't, it just seems like they're kind of dealing with it.
It would make sense that at some point there's going to be some sort of technology, some sort of advancement to make the turf kind of give a little more while remaining stable, just like grass and turf and the dirt do. So I would hope that there's some research going on to make turf better and give even maybe a little flexibility to it. That way you're going to have a decrease in those lower extremity injuries.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And listen, the biggest injury I think people here in the Tampa Bay area are talking about is the injury to Bucky Irving. Not a great sign yesterday at practice, Doc, as he's in there out there in a boot. He's out there on crutches. And I think at times when you're out there and you're watching these guys, and we know football is such a physical sport, sometimes a guy will put a boot on as a precautionary thing and he'll be out there on the weekend. But man, to see him on the crutches and really struggling to move along, I mean, I gave me concern. I mean, how concerned are you about the injury to Bucky Irving? Do you think he'll be in the lineup on Sunday? And if he's not in the lineup on Sunday, from what we know, the little information that we do have, how long do you think he could be out?
So watching the game, I mean, when you look at the video, his foot was caught pointed down right on the grass field, and then it got twisted. Originally, you think, it's probably an ankle, but then it's reported as a foot sprain. When you're looking at a foot sprain, you're really looking at what we call a midfoot strain. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see my foot.
Yeah.
But basically, you have your toes here, you have your heel here, and this is basically the basis of this bridge right here. The midfoot sits right here, right at the top of the bridge. So there's a lot of strain there. Every time you're stepping down, there's a lot of strain through here. So when we've got a midfoot sprain, look at the area right here, and we call this the Lisfranc joint. And that joint is very important because it offers that stabilization of the bridge. So anytime you go to step, anytime you go to walk or run, pivot, there's going to be a lot of force on that bridge, and now it's going to be unstable. There's different grades to it. A grade 1 injury, maybe you're out a week, maybe 2. For a grade 2 injury, you're out about 3 to 4 weeks. Grade 3, which is the worst type of injury, ligaments are torn, you need surgery, that's season ending. So they haven't said anything about surgery on Bucky. So I'm thinking it's a grade 1 or grade 2. So anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks out. Usually what you do is you mobilize it, you put it on crutches, you put it in a boot to keep any pressure from it, and then allow the ligaments to heal up.
Doc, I mean, your answer, that's one of the best answers that we're going to be able to get here on the show today, because people are wondering about Bucky, man. And a buddy of mine and I were talking about using him and overuse, and now we see with the injury there. Do we know, like, when you see injury reports as a doctor, can you kind of decipher what the injuries are without knowing exactly what the injury is? Because of little information, because for us, for a foot sprain, just a casual sports fan, we're like, I don't know if it's the top of the foot, the bottom of the foot. Like, you knew exactly where the wrist tear was for Nick Paul. So because you're in this field, when you get that little bit of information, can you start eliminating other things and kind of you kind of narrow it down to what you think it is?
You can. I mean, I also look at the injury video.
Right,
I
okay.
try to find the injury videos, and I try to see the mechanism of injury, because usually the mechanism of injury really starts telling you what happened.
Right.
So that's one of the things so I try to find a video and try to, like, from different angles, just to see what the injury was. And then when you look at the report and they say, oh, it's a midfoot or it's a foot sprain. Well, there's, other than the ankle, and they would call that just an ankle sprain.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at the foot, it's usually that middle part of the foot that sprains, especially in that type of mechanism with the foot pointed down and then the twist right as the toes are pointed down on the ground.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Love that. I want to ask you about Tyreek Hill before we get back to the Bucs.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill saying after that brutal injury that we saw on Monday Night Football against the Jets that he's going to be ready for the 2026 season. And we saw, how similar or dissimilar that was to the injury to Chris Godwin. And we know that he wasn't ready for the start of the 2025 season. So, I mean, obviously guys always want to come back and they think that they can heal quicker than others. And these are world-class athletes. I'm not taking anything away from them. But from what you saw with that injury with Tyreek Hill, how similar was that to the Chris Godwin injury? How long do you think he can be out, or how long do you think he will be out? And do you think there's any realistic possibility that he's ready for week 1 in the 2026 season?
Yeah. So as I was watching the game and I saw the injury happen and he went down on the sideline, at first when I saw the first part of the video, I thought he had done the same thing as Godwin did. I thought he dislocated his ankle because the ankle was pointed 90 degrees away from where it should be. But then as I kept going back and forth on the video, I see the calf was also twisted in the same way as the foot was. So, and then he's grabbing his knee. So then I'm thinking, oh boy, this is probably a knee dislocation. And knee dislocations can be devastating. Because not only is just the 4 ligaments that are traveling through there, you got nerves, you got blood vessels traveling through there, there's muscles, cartilage, bone. So it depends on what is injured, is the recovery that you're going to expect. In the case of Tyreek, what's reported, it was just ligament injury, no blood vessel injuries, no nerve injuries, no cartilage, no fracture. So ACL plus other ligaments, which probably MCL, LCL, so the outside ligaments injured with it. So surgery done. He's doing well, looking at about a year out, just like any other ACL injury. Nick Chubb had a similar injury in 2015 while playing for the Georgia Bulldogs as a sophomore. Following year, junior, senior years, played really well, over 1,000 yards rushing each of those seasons. Was drafted by the Browns, has been played in the NFL, had another knee injury 6 seasons in. Now he's playing for the Texans. So you can come back. Now you get Marcus Lattimore, who's playing for South Carolina, had a knee dislocation against Tennessee in 2012. He fell down the draft to the 4th round, but was drafted by the 49ers and never saw an NFL snap.
Right.
So it all depends on what injuries are going on, what happened to that knee, and then the recovery. I mean, all people recover differently.
Doc, man, great background there, buddy. This guy, man, right here, you better be careful. You might be taking my job here with all that NFL knowledge. I love you, buddy. This is great stuff. Yeah, I mean, we'll see about Tyreek, man. He's a freak athlete, so hopefully for him, because the speed is such a huge part of his game. Staying with the wide receivers, let's go to Mike Evans. What we know of as far as his injury, when do you think we could see Mike Evans back? As far, he didn't practice again today, so we knew it was going to take some time. But as far as what we know with Mike and his history of the hamstring injuries, when do you think we could see him back? And also, I know somebody brought this up today. They play against Seattle, and then they return home, and then the next week they go to Detroit on turf as well. Is that type of thing something to keep in mind as far as his return, or is it one of those things where, like, hey, if he's 100%, regardless of what the surface is, he's going to be back playing?
Yeah, I think it'll be regardless of what the surface is. Okay, he'll be there because he's a key player to the Buccaneers offense. Mm-hmm. So he injured this week 3 against the Jets. He missed the last game. If you look at last year with a similar, this injury is reported to be not as severe as the one he had last year. He missed 3 games last year. So I do expect him to miss this week, maybe ready for the following game. So if this is not as bad as last year, 2 weeks out is not unreasonable for a hamstring strain. You usually look at about 2 to 4 weeks out. So I don't expect him to play this coming Sunday, but I think by the following week he should be fine.
What do we know about the Jamel Dean injury, Doc? I mean, it says on the injury report yesterday that he's dealing with a hip. I mean, this is a guy where he's much maligned here in the Tampa Bay area because of whether it's his, inability at times to be able to perform as a cornerback, but I think a lot of times it's because he's injured every freaking year. So, but this is a little bit different, dealing with a hip injury. What do we know about Jamel Dean, and what kind of a length of absence could we suspect for him?
Yeah. So what was reported? Hip and groin injury. So is it a cartilage issue? Is it a groin sprain? So again, can't really tell what's going on there.
Right.
Now, if we're strictly talking groin injury, mild injuries, you're looking at about 2 to 4 week time period. For moderate injuries, you're looking at longer time, 8 to 12. So hopefully it's just a mild injury. He's out maybe 2 weeks, back in week 3 from the injury. Otherwise, he could be out at least a month.
Oh man, that's terrible. And another guy, Benjamin Morrison, dealing with the rookie corner, young man who was dealing with some injuries coming into his NFL career. He's coming back, he's getting more time, and then he goes out with a hamstring injury. You got to feel for guys like this, man. You really do, because this is a guy that, he was supposed to be a first-round pick. He fell to the second round because he himself had some hip issues, and now he's got the hamstring problem. Is there any correlation between those two injuries, or is just kind of just comes with the territory as being a National Football League player?
Yeah, he had a preseason actually hamstring injury. He was nursing a hamstring injury before the season started. Didn't play week 1. Had some limited activity week 2 and 3 because of Dean's injury. Now he sees increased activity against the Eagles, and ends up re-injuring the hamstring. So it's kind of like when you look at, we talked about it last week with Evans, the re-injury of the hamstring. So it's not uncommon that once you start injury the hamstring, unless you rehab it really well and really you maintain rehabilitation, taking care of it pretty much on a daily basis, you have recurrence of injury. So with Morrison, unfortunately, he's now re-injured the hamstring. Hopefully, it's just a mild strain. So hopefully, just a couple weeks out before we see him back.
Isn't that wild though, Doc? Like, because you got to figure the Buccaneers, National Football League team, they've got all the doctors, right? They have everything, and I'm sure, they have every doctor, right? Like they take every precaution before Mike Evans comes back or before Jamel Dean comes back. But the body really is so unpredictable, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and it's all the explosive movements these guys are exposed to. The muscles are put under a lot of strain. Whenever you have that explosive movement on the line or speeding up to get a tackle, the hamstrings are put under a lot of strain. And it's not uncommon that all these guys with big muscles, not a lot of flexibility, the hamstring is going to give.
Yeah, and it's kind of wild too. I mean, and I guess now, are we seeing more of these non-contact injuries now, Doc? Are we seeing, like, we're seeing Achilles, we're seeing these knee injuries like Malik Neighbors when he hurts his knee and he just goes to jump up for the ball and he gets rattled. Is it more now than we've seen in the past, these non-contact injuries?
I mean, when you look at the incidence of hamstring injuries, it's usually non-contact. I mean, you see it all the time on track and field. You see athletes running on track and all of a sudden, boom, they blow a hamstring. ACLs are more commonly non-contact. When you look at the incidence of ACL injuries, 4 to 1 non-contact versus contact. Yes, you have the really bad ones can be on contact, but most ACL injuries, both in women and in men, are usually non-contact. It's usually jumping, landing, the knee hyperextends, locks up, and goes the ACL.
Lamar Jackson is another guy. I know all of our fantasy football friends out there they're worried about Lamar. What do we know about him and as far as his recovery?
It's reported that he's also dealing with a hamstring type injury. So maybe 2 to 4 week recovery, probably a grade 1 or 2 injury. The coach didn't want to talk much about it when he was in his coach interview yesterday. So I'm thinking a mild hamstring injury. He did play a little bit after the injury.
Yeah.
So I think he'll miss this week. He may be back this week, next week.
It was great to meet you in person the other day, heading over there to Evara Health. I mean, it's incredible. Just the facility over there is just top notch. One of the things that you and I were talking about, Doc, was when you have these dislocations, when it comes to these knees, like, you have to be very cognizant of, you said the nerve damage, right? And because there might be a cause for amputation, right? I mean, just talk about how
Yeah.
important
I mean,
it is. Talk about how important it is to be able to be on top of that and to realize that it's not just like, oh, you tore your ACL. Like, you have to really make sure that you're looking at everything, or you could lose your leg.
Yeah. So knee dislocations are a big, urgent, emergent evaluation because the blood vessel that supplies your lower leg courses right through the back of the knee. It's called the popliteal artery. And this artery can be damaged, transected, twisted, torn when you dislocate your knee. And basically, you just now cut off the blood flow to the lower part of the leg. So the first thing that you have to do, you have to get these people to the emergency room, get an arterial scan done on their leg, usually with an MRI, and then make sure that that blood vessel is intact and the blood flow is well. Because otherwise, if you miss that, unfortunately, I've seen people that have lost their leg below the knee just because of that. Fortunately, on Tyreek, no blood vessel injury, no nerve injury. And that's the other big thing, because nerves, if you tear any of the two nerves that are traveling through your knee, those tend usually to be more permanent injuries, and you end up with complete weakness, the lower extremity below the knee.
Unbelievable. And Doc, I know we didn't talk about this, but I just wanted to see did you see the injury to the WNBA player last night, Kelsey Mitchell?
No, I did not see that one. I'll go back and take a look at it.
Yeah, definitely go back and check a look at it, because something happened on there, and she just it looked like she just lost. It was almost like she was paralyzed. She couldn't move her legs. She had rhabdomyolysis, RHABD.
Oh, okay.
Rhabdomyolysis, and she put it on social media last night saying, "My muscles stopped producing and reached its maximum capacity. I went into a sense of numbness, paralyzing feeling with no movement from my lower extremities for up to 5 to 7 seconds." I mean, that's got to be wild. You're a high-level athlete. You're deep in the postseason run, and then all of a sudden you can't feel your legs.
That game went into overtime, right?
Yeah.
So basically what happens is you deal with dehydration, body heat building up. And as dehydration sets in, body heat sets in, the muscles start breaking down. So rhabdomyolysis essentially is a breaking down of the muscle fibers and the breaking down of the muscle. So people go into spasms, people go into complete rigidity. And the main treatment is, one, you got to get people cooled off. You got to get people hydrated, because the problem is when the muscles break down, you build up something called myoglobin in your blood vessels. And if that gets into the kidneys and starts precipitating in the kidneys, it can lead to renal failure. So you got to immediately hydrate people. You got to immediately, usually what we do is alkalinize the urine also along with it to prevent the precipitation. But it's a medical emergency to get them treated, because you don't want to continue to have that muscle breakdown because of the danger they can have to the kidneys.
Wow, Doc, that is crazy, man. I'm an amateur. I always said I should study more injuries before I ever got into sports media or anything like that, but I've never heard of that before. Is it rare? Is it very rare?
No, I've seen it mostly out on outdoor events in the heat, especially here in Florida. You have a football game in August. It's 95 degrees outside, 100% humidity, and your body just loses the capacity to dissipate heat completely. Sweat doesn't evaporate. Your body starts building up heat. And as that heat comes in and you're dehydrated, I've seen that happen. I've seen it happen also at the end of triathlons with some of the athletes. We immediately cool them off, start hydration, and basically get them to the hospital so they can continue the hydration process and the cooling process. Because the main thing is we want to prevent the muscles from continuing to break down. So not very uncommon here in Florida and in the hot states, especially during the summertime.
Wow. Unbelievable, Doc. Before I let you go, I want to ask you, we didn't touch on this last week, but we probably should have. The Philadelphia Eagles came down to Tampa a day earlier to try to acclimate to the heat. I wanted to get your opinion on that too, because I've coaching baseball all these years, and you're doing all these things with these kids, and it's 95 degrees. And my big thing was drink a lot of Gatorade, drink a lot of water the day before, 2 days before, right? You try to do it the day of. I think sometimes it might be too late. Is that a myth? Is that real? Can you really? I've been there 20 years, Doc. I still don't think I'm acclimated to the heat and here in the Tampa Bay area. Is that something more of a mental type of thing to make yourself feel better, or is there really a benefit for coming down a day early to help you with this incredible Tampa Heat?
Acclimatization is real. It happens.
Okay.
Now, unless the Eagles have found some secret that nobody knows of, it does not happen in 24 hours.
Okay,
if you look at the recommendations from the American College of Sports Medicine and the National Athletic Trainers Association, it's 7 to 14 days for acclimatization. So a minimum of 7 days, up to 14 of back-to-back practices in the environment that you're in. Now, elite level athletes could achieve that a little sooner, but it's usually still about 3 to 5 days at the soonest. Acclimatization, what essentially does, it changes the concentration of your sweat. It changes your sweating parameters. It lowers the core temperature of your body as you're exercising. When you start, lowers your heart rate. So there are physiologic changes that occur for you to be able to acclimatize and do better in the heat. But those things just take time, not 24 hours.
So mentally, probably, right? I mean, there's how much of that too, Doc, is at times where, yeah, maybe there's not a scientific or there's not a certain way, but sometimes can you fool yourself, right? Can you fool yourself to push yourself? I mean, I know that might be more of a psychological type of thing, but I mean,
there's always placebo. I mean, in anything that people do, there's some placebo effect to it. So you may feel like, yeah, I can go a little longer because I came in a day early and I'm used now to the heat. But the physiologic changes aren't there. So what's going to happen is you're probably going to feel great as you start the game. But if you're overdoing it, by the end of the game, you're going to be paying the consequences.
No doubt about it. Dr. Carlos Rodriguez, our Evara Health Injury Report every Thursday at 12:30. Doc, I say this to some of my friends that come on and I say, man, you make our show a whole heck of a lot better. Well, that's not only true with you as far as making the show better, but you make us a whole heck of a lot smarter too, my friend. Fantastic job. This has been so much fun. I will send you some more stuff next week. Keep an eye on all the injuries. Now I'm going to be looking at injuries completely different because of our chats here on Thursdays. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game tonight. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk next week.
Appreciate it. Thanks,
buddy. Take care, buddy.